The stars were calm the day Earth received its first ship from the Galactic Union. It was a moment of pride for all humans, after years of struggle, learning alien languages, building peaceful relations, and passing the test of science and diplomacy. Earth was finally accepted into the Union. People gathered around screens across the planet. Children wore t-shirts with stars printed on them. Elderly men and women cried with joy. The world held its breath as the Galactic Union's welcome gift appeared on the space station above Earth. It was a ship, a real alien starship. But when the first images came, the joy started to fade. The ship was small. It had thin armor plates and slow engines. Its design was old, almost ancient. One alien reporter even said during a live broadcast that the ship belonged in a museum. A few species openly laughed. One of the Union members, a tall blue-skinned alien from the Velen race, whispered to her assistant that giving humans this ship would teach them humility. The youngest species should start from the bottom, she said. Down on Earth, people noticed the mocking tone. Still, many humans remained hopeful. One woman in South Asia said in an interview, "Even a weak ship can fly strong if the pilot has courage." The ship was named Hope 1. It was assigned to a team of 6 crew members. The leader was Tom, a man known for staying calm even in hard times. Beside him was Mira, a fast-thinking science officer with sharp eyes and quiet confidence. Then there was Zed, the ship's engineer, a quiet man with a mind built for solving puzzles. The others were support crew, trained for medical, navigation, and communication roles. When the crew first stepped into Hope 1, they felt like they had entered the past. The walls were scratched, the lights flickered sometimes, many systems were slow to respond. Tom walked through the narrow hallways and said, "This ship has a story. Let's find out what it is." Mira nodded. She had already opened the data logs. Most of them were wiped or locked behind outdated alien codes. She raised an eyebrow but kept working. Zed stood in front of the engine room. The main power core hummed with a strange rhythm. It wasn't powerful, but it was steady. He tapped a few controls and looked at the internal layout. Something felt off. The power system was simple, but it had extra space around it, extra wires, ports, and broken connectors that seemed like they were once part of a more complex setup. Someone removed parts, Zed said, more to himself than to others later. When the crew gathered in the ship's small meeting room, they talked about their first mission. The Galactic Union had given them a job: map a nearby star system called Delner 5, a quiet place with no major danger. It was a routine mission, something to keep them busy without putting them in real risk. The crew agreed. Tom looked around the room. He saw excitement, but also doubt in some eyes. "I know what others think," Tom said. "They believe we're flying trash. Let's prove we're more than they expect." Hope 1 launched from Earth's orbit the next morning. The engines buzzed like an old machine starting up after a long sleep. As they left Earth behind, the crew saw their home become a small blue dot. Tom sat in the command seat. Mira watched the star charts. Zed worked deep in the engine bay for 3 days. The journey was smooth. Mira ran tests on the ship's sensors. They were weak, but she found ways to adjust them. By using old Union codes, she boosted the signal strength. Zed explored hidden panels in the engineering section. He found backup modules no one had activated. With a bit of rewiring, he brought an old system online. It was a self-correction program for gravity control. Small, but useful. Tom kept reading the Union protocols. He wanted to understand how their allies thought. Every night, he sat alone and studied their maps and flight patterns. He believed knowledge was as important as tech. On the 4th day, the crew reached the edge of Delner 5's system, just as Mira began scanning the planets. The ship shook. "What was that?" Tom asked. "Magnetic wave detected," Mira said. "It's rising fast." Zed's voice came through the speaker. "It's a plasma storm. Big one. It's heading straight for us." Hope 1 wasn't made for storms. The crew knew that. Union officials had said so when they handed the ship over. Other ships would turn back, Mira said. "We're not other ships." Tom Ripley ordered the ship into a slow dive toward the nearest moon. But the storm caught up fast. Lights dimmed, walls creaked. The power core dropped to half. Zed worked with speed no one expected. He rerouted the coolant lines and rebalanced the power feed. At the same time, Mira used an ancient star map to predict the storm's flow. With perfect timing, she told Tom when to fire the ship's small thrusters. The ship rolled sideways, using the storm's force to sling past a burst of plasma. Hope 1 came out of the storm shaking, but safe. Systems were low. Lights flickered again. But the crew was alive. More than that, they had gathered full storm data. High-quality readings from inside the plasma burst. Readings even top Union ships had failed to... Tom smiled. He looked at his team. They were tired, sweaty, and covered in dust, but their eyes were full of fire. Back at Union headquarters, alien leaders watched the footage. Some leaned forward, others frowned. The humans had survived, and the weakest ship, using skill, timing, and courage, and it was only their first mission. Hope 1 flew slowly through the empty space beyond the storm. The damage was real. Panels were burnt, 2 systems were still offline. The lights blinked now and then. But the ship was still flying, and the crew was alive. Tom looked out the front window. Stars moved silently in the dark. He sat in the command seat, holding a warm drink in his hands. Mira stood beside him, watching the data screen. Behind them, Zed entered the room, his face and clothes covered in oil and dust. I fixed the backup stabilizers, Zed said. But we need new coolant soon. The old one is leaking. We'll handle it, Tom replied. We made it through the storm. That means something. Mira turned the screen toward them. We collected the full plasma wave structure. That alone will shock the Union. She showed the results. The energy patterns inside the storm were clear. The readings were stable. No ship from any species had ever recorded this kind of data before. Zed looked at the screen and smiled for the first time in days. Not bad for the weakest ship in the galaxy. Tom sent the data packet to the Galactic Union. They waited for hours. There was silence. Then a short message came from Union Command. Impressive. Continue mapping mission. Remain cautious. That was it. No medal. No celebration. No thanks. But Tom didn't expect more. He knew what they really wanted. They wanted to see if humans would fail. Let's move on to the Delner system, Tom said. Let's do what we came here to do. The crew followed his command. They moved toward the first planet in the system. It was small, rocky, and full of craters. Mira named it Stone Well. The ship made a quick scan and moved on. The second planet was larger, with a thick cloud cover. It had signs of past water. Maybe long ago, life had existed there. Zed ran deep scans and picked up weak radio waves coming from under the planet's crust. Could be leftover tech, he said. But it's too deep to study from orbit. We mark it, Tom said. We'll come back later with better tools. As they moved toward the third planet, something strange happened. The ship's sensors picked up a signal. It was weak but repeating, a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Mira tried to trace it. It's not coming from any planet. It's coming from outside the system. A few light hours away. Could be a trap. Zed warned. Tom thought for a moment. Then he spoke. We're not turning away. Set course for the signal. Hope 1 changed direction and moved toward the unknown. The signal grew stronger as they got closer. It wasn't a call for help. It was a pattern. Repeating numbers. A lost language. A puzzle waiting to be solved. After 6 hours of flying, they saw it. A hidden star system. Small. Only 3 planets. Not on any map. Not in any record. Mira whispered. This place was hidden on purpose. Zed nodded. The signal is old. Very old. But someone wanted it found. They entered the system carefully. The first planet was black and silent. The second was covered in thick fog. The third was glowing faintly with green rings. Hope 1 moved into orbit around the third planet. As they passed over the surface, the signal stopped. What does that mean? Mira asked. It means we woke something up, Zed replied suddenly. The ship's screen filled with new symbols. Strange shapes, circles within circles, moving lines. It was a message, but in no known language. Tom looked at the screen. It's trying to talk to us. Zed worked fast. He compared the new symbols with the original signal. after 2 hours. He cracked a part of it. It's not a threat, he said. It's a record, a history log from a forgotten race. They lived here long ago. They hid their system and sent the signal for someone to find it in the future. Mira leaned closer. Why hide their history? Zed showed them a translated piece of the message. It read, "We were hunted. We had truth. Others feared it. We hid it in the stars." Tom sat back in his chair. This is no ordinary mission anymore. This is discovery. They spent 3 more days collecting data. Ancient ruins were detected below the clouds. Weak power still flowed in deep tunnels. Zed sent a probe to the surface. It returned with strange readings, a crystal structure that could store memory without energy. Mira smiled as she looked at it. This thing could hold knowledge for 1,000,000 years. Hope One recorded everything. Then they sent a second report to the Union. This time, they waited longer. Finally, a new message came. Location not in Union records. Knowledge confirmed. Return for study again. No celebration. Just cold, simple words, but outside the official words. Something else began to happen. Alien scientists started whispering. On Union networks, small articles appeared. A few alien commentators said maybe humans were more curious than expected. Maybe they had a special kind of luck. Or maybe the old ship wasn't as weak as it looked. In secret rooms, other leaders began watching Hope One more closely. Back on the ship, the crew relaxed for a short moment. They sat together in the common room, a small space with metal walls and a low table. Mira shared some fruit juice. Zed told a quiet joke about the ship's toilet being older than him. Tom looked at his team. They gave us the weakest ship, and we just found a hidden world. What do you think they'll do next? Mira grinned. They'll give us another easy mission, to test us again. Zed nodded. And we'll surprise them again. Tom raised his glass to Hope One. Old bones, strong spirit. They all raised their glasses. Outside the ship, the stars kept shining. The engines hummed. The crew slept, knowing the journey had only just begun. Hope One drifted quietly through space as the crew left the hidden star system behind. They had discovered something no one in the Galactic Union had ever found. An ancient world filled with secrets, a lost signal buried in the stars. And still, the Union had only sent a short message of confirmation. No reward, no ceremony. Tom sat in his chair on the command deck. His eyes stayed on the wide screen that showed the path ahead. Around him, the ship felt calm, almost peaceful. Mira stood near the console, scanning the outer edge of the system. Her fingers moved across the screen, and lines of data began to appear. There's a strange pattern here. She entered the room, holding a small toolkit. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes, but his voice was steady. What kind of pattern? He escaped. Myra pointed at the screen. These stars in the outer region are not natural. Look at their placement. To perfect. Like someone moved them. Tom leaned forward. Move the stars? Not real stars, she explained. Decoy signals. They look like stars. But the energy doesn't match. It's artificial light. Someone tried to hide something behind them. Tom thought for a moment. Let's go see what they're hiding. Zed smiled slightly. We're turning into explorers now. Hope One adjusted course and moved toward the edge of the system. As the fake star signals faded, a new shape appeared on the radar. It was not a planet, not a ship. Something else. It looked like a giant flat rock floating in space, covered in crystal towers. It had no engine, no life, and no sound. It just floated, hidden behind the decoy stars. The crew stared at it in silence. Mira whispered, "It's a station, maybe thousands of years old." Tom nodded. "Let's scan it." Carefully, they ran a full scan. The station had no power, but parts of its structure were still whole. It had chambers, long tunnels, and a central core made of crystal metal. The Union had no records of anything like it. Zed stared at the readings. This material doesn't match any known alloy. It's stronger than titanium, but lighter than plastic. How did they make this? Mira continued scanning. Her face grew serious. I found something. A sealed archive in the center. Could be data. Could be a message. Tom looked at both of them. Can we get it without going inside? No. Zed said, the signal is weak. We need to dock. But the airlock system is too old for our connectors. I'll need to build a custom bridge. Tom gave the order. Do it. We'll go in as soon as it's ready. Zed worked for 6 hours, welding parts and using pieces from old toolkits. Mira helped by mapping the safest path inside. Tom stayed on the deck, checking the external environment. There were no threats, no movement, only silence. When the bridge was ready, Tom, Mira, and Zed suited up. They walked across the metal arm and entered the station through a small opening Zed had made. Inside, the air was thin and cold. The walls were covered in a glowing dust that lit up as they moved. The place looked abandoned but not ruined, as if it had been waiting for someone to return. Mira found a map on the wall. Strange lines and circles, but with some matching patterns from the earlier signal they had cracked. The core is straight ahead, she said. We follow the main tunnel. They moved slowly. Their boots echoed through the long hall. Zed stopped, often to take readings. The deeper they went, the stronger the data signal became. Finally, they reached the core. It was a large room with a raised platform in the middle. On it stood a cube, floating slightly above the floor. It pulsed with soft green light. Mira stepped forward and placed her scanner near it. The cube responded. The room filled with light. Shapes appeared in the air. Images. Moving pictures of a world full of tall buildings, ships in the sky, and people walking under strange trees. Then the images changed. Fire. Destruction. A dark shape in the sky, bigger than a moon. Tom whispered. This station belonged to a race that's gone now. Zed looked at the last image. A fleet of ships flying away from their home. One ship dropped a small object before leaving. That object became the station. They left this here for someone to find, Zed said. Someone who might understand. Mira looked at the final message on her screen. She read it. Slowly, we tried to warn them. They did not listen. If you find this, you must choose. Hide or fight. Learn fast. The darkness returns. The message ended. The cube stopped glowing. The room became still. Tom stood in silence. Then he turned to his team. Take everything. We copy the message. We scan the cube. We bring it back. They returned to Hope 1 and loaded the data. It took hours, but they saved it all. When they sent the report to the Union. This time the response was different. You are ordered to hold position. A science fleet will arrive in 3 days. Do not return to Earth. Do not enter more systems. Await orders. Tom read the message twice. Then he turned off the screen. They're scared, he said. We found something they don't control. Mira sat beside him. This changes everything. If that message is true, there's something dangerous out there. Something even the Union fears. Zed entered the room. They want us to stop. But we're the only ones who saw it with clear eyes. The others just see data. We felt it. Tom looked at his crew. His voice was steady. The Union gave us the weakest ship. But maybe that was their mistake, because we were never going to follow their path. We were going to make our own outside the window. The hidden station floated in space, quiet and ancient, and somewhere far beyond. In the dark corners of the galaxy, something was waking up. Hope 1 was ready. Hope 1 waited silently in orbit while the crew followed the Union's command. A science fleet was on the way. Until then, Tom and his team were ordered to stay in position and not explore further. Tom sat on the command deck, staring at the stars. His fingers tapped the side of his chair. He didn't like waiting without purpose. Mira was studying the ancient message again. She believed there were more secrets in the symbols. Zed, on the other hand, had found something unexpected. Tom. Zed called through the speaker. You need to see this. Tom stood and walked down to engineering. Zed showed him a signal log. It was weak and broken, but the source was clear. This is not from the station, Zed said. It's coming from a nearby planet, a world that was once on the Union's lost list. They said it was destroyed long ago, but there's something down there still sending data. Tom read the planet's name. Veras. What do we know about Veras? Thomas Skebmeyer joined them and answered. It was once a science colony, a planet full of research centers and labs. But something went wrong, a system failure. The place collapsed. The Union said no life survived. Zed pointed at the data. Maybe they were wrong. Or maybe something was hidden. Tom didn't hesitate. Prepare for descent. We'll check it out before the science fleet arrives. If we find nothing, we return before they even notice. Hope 1 adjusted its course and moved toward Varus. The planet looked dead from space. Gray clouds covered its sky. The surface was dark, dry, and broken. Cracks ran across continents. Old cities were half buried in ash. The ship's scanners picked up strange energy signals deep underground. They were weak, but they had rhythm, like a machine still trying to breathe. Tom gave the order to land near the largest signal source. The ship lowered through thick clouds and touched down on cracked stone. The landing site was an old research outpost. Its roof had fallen, and parts of it were buried under dust and rock. But the entrance tunnel was still visible. Tom, Mira, and Zed suited up and stepped outside. The air was thin and toxic. Their boots crunched over broken glass and dried soil. Inside the tunnel, they moved carefully. Lights from their suits lit the path. Old metal walls bent in strange angles. Signs in alien languages were burned or faded. Zed found a power line and tapped into it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a small light blinked above a door. The panel opened slowly. They entered a room filled with broken machines. One screen still worked. Mira cleaned it with her glove. A log appeared on the screen, written in an old alien script. She used her scanner to translate it. Project Mirror. Energy bending field test. Last log. System breach detected. Core locked. Project Mirror? Tom asked, what were they testing here? Zed looked around. Energy bending. That's high-level tech. The Union doesn't share that easily. Maybe the project failed. Or maybe someone wanted it to fail. They followed the hallway deeper into the base. Dust floated in the air, broken. Robots lay in corners. Some doors were sealed shut. Others hung open. In the heart of the base, they found the core chamber, a round room with a large machine in the center. It was still active, running on a small backup power cell. Mira approached the machine and scanned it. This is a gravity bender. It can twist local fields to move objects without engines. This tech is way ahead of what the Union gives to young species. Zed added. It can also hide ships, bend space, maybe even resist black holes. But this model is unstable. It wasn't ready. Tom looked at the power readings. If this was activated during a test and something went wrong, it could have collapsed the whole region. That's why the colony died. Mira kept scanning. But something else is here. Look at this log. Before the breach, they detected a signal. Not from space. From inside the planet. They followed the lead and reached another chamber below the core. Inside, they found something unexpected. A sealed pod made of crystal metal, similar to what they found in the hidden station. Zed stepped forward. This is ancient, maybe placed here before the colony was built. They found it and started studying it. That's what caused the disaster. Mira read the last log. The pod woke up. It activated something in the planet's core. That's what broke everything. Tom looked at the pod. It didn't glow or move, but something about it felt alive. We're taking it, he said. If the Union gets here first, they'll lock it away. Whatever this is. It's linked to the other message. We need to know more. Zed carefully detached the pod from its base. It was light for its size. He packed it inside a sealed case. They returned to Hope 1 just as a warning alert flashed on the screen. Union Science Fleet entering system, Mira said. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Launch now. Tom ordered. The engines fired, and Hope 1 lifted off. As the ship rose through the clouds, Zed increased engine output. The ship reached orbit just before the Union ships arrived. They didn't wait for questions. Hope 1 jumped to deep space and vanished from the system. Inside the ship, the crew sat in silence. The pod was locked in the cargo room. No one knew what it really was. But all of them felt the same thing. A warning, a puzzle, a key to something bigger. Mira broke the silence. We've now touched things older than the Union itself. Things they don't want us to find. Zed nodded. They gave us this ship to keep us busy. But we've already gone beyond what they expected. Tom stood up. Then we keep going. Not just for Earth, but for truth. If there's danger coming, we won't hide from it. We'll meet it head-on. Hope One moved through the stars again, carrying a crew of explorers no one believed in. With each new secret, their path grew more dangerous, but so did their purpose. They were no longer passengers of the weakest ship. They were its strength. Hope One had become more than just a small ship. It was a symbol of human will, a proof that courage and cleverness could beat strength and size. But the Galactic Union was not yet ready to accept this truth. A new challenge came from the Dren, one of the most powerful alien races in the Union. Their ships were large, fast, and heavily armed. They had ruled space battles for centuries and looked down on humans as weak and foolish. The Dren Council sent a message to Earth and the crew of Hope One. It was an invitation and a test. Fly through the Ring of Death, the message said. No ship has ever passed it. We will watch your failure. The Ring of Death was a deadly nebula. Black holes, time rifts, and violent energy storms filled its vast space. No ship had ever crossed it intact. Many had tried. All had been lost. Tom read the message and felt a cold wind in his heart. This was not just a test of skill. It was a public challenge meant to humiliate humanity. Mira studied the nebula's data carefully. The ring shifts space and time inside. It's like a storm that moves everything in strange ways. Our sensors will fail. Their Zed was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "There's one thing. The ship has a hidden system. I found parts of it when we repaired the engine core after." The storm. Tom looked at him. "Hidden system?" Zed nodded. "The ship's core has a spacefold drive. It's unfinished tech. The Union thought it was broken and removed it from the official systems. But I found the codes. They're buried deep in the ship's memory banks." Mira's eyes widen. "If we can activate it, we might be able to move through the ring by folding space around us. Instead of fighting the dangers, we avoid them." Tom smiled. "That could change everything, but it's risky. We don't know if it works or what it will do to us." The crew prepared for the mission. They worked day and night, running tests and making sure the ship was ready. The small crew grew closer. They knew this was not just a mission. It was a battle for respect, for survival. Finally, the day came. Hope One left its safe zone and moved toward the edge of the Ring of Death. Outside the ship, the nebula glowed with colors no one could name. Shadows and light mixed in a dance of danger. Tom took the command seat. Mira worked the sensors, trying to find any safe path. Zed stood ready to activate the spacefold drive. The ship entered the nebula slowly. The stars bent and shifted. Time seemed to stretch and shrink. Mira reported, "Sensors failing. We can't get a clear reading. The storm is breaking our signals." Suddenly, the ship shook hard. Warning lights flashed. The control system lost connection to the main engines for a few seconds. Tom held the controls steady. "Stay calm. Trust the ship and the crews." Had activated the hidden drive. The ship's core glowed with new power. The walls vibrated gently. The space around them bent. For a moment, everything stopped. Then Hope One folded space. It vanished from sight. Inside the ship, time felt strange. Seconds stretched into minutes. The crew could hear their own breathing, slow and steady. Mira whispered, "We're inside the fold. If this works, we'll skip the worst parts of the ring." Suddenly, the ship reappeared outside. The nebula's dangerous clouds were far behind. The stars shone clearly again. Hope One had crossed the Ring of Death. Back at the Galactic Union's observation stations, alien leaders watched the live feed in shock. The weakest ship had done what no one else could. The Dren Council was silent. Their challenge had failed. Tom smiled at his crew. "We did it, against all odds. Against every prediction." Mira grinned. "We used the ship's hidden past to build our future." Zed laughed softly. "This old ship still has many secrets. Maybe the Union was wrong to give it away." Hope One became a legend. The ship that defied the impossible. The crew who danced with death and won. But for Tom, Mira, and Zed, this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast. Mystery and danger waited in every corner. And humanity was ready to face them all. Hope One floated at the edge of the Ring of Death, outside the windows. The nebula glowed with swirling colors, deep reds, blues, and greens mixing in the dark space. This was the place no ship had ever crossed and lived to tell the tale. Tom sat in the command seat, steady and calm. Mira stood near the sensor panel, watching the readings that flickered and vanished. Zed was in the engine room, ready to activate the secret space full drive hidden deep inside the ship's core. The crew was quiet. Each knew what was at stake, not just their lives, but the future of humanity in the Galactic Union. Engines ready, Zed's voice came through the comms. We're as ready as we'll ever be, Tom replied. Hope One slowly moved forward, into the heart of the nebula. The stars seemed to twist and disappear. Time itself felt strange. The ship's instruments went dark one by one. No signals could get through the swirling storm of gravity waves and energy bursts. Mira pressed buttons, trying to catch any signal. We're losing sensors. The nebula is blocking everything. The ship shook hard. Warning lights flashed. Time bent strangely inside the cabin. Moments felt stretched or compressed. The crew's hearts raced, but they stayed focused. Suddenly, the ship was pulled toward a black hole hidden within the nebula. The gravity was strong, trying to crush them. Tom gripped the controls, fighting the pull. Activate the space full drive now, Tom ordered. Zed pressed a series of buttons on the control panel. The ship's core glowed bright green. The walls hummed softly. The space around the ship began to fold like a sheet of paper being bent. Hope One vanished from sight. Inside the ship, time felt strange. Seconds stretched into minutes, then snapped back. The crew could only hear their own breathing and the hum of the engines. Mira whispered. We are inside the fold. We are skipping through space and time. Suddenly, the ship reappeared on the other side of the ring, outside the windows. The dangerous clouds were far behind. The stars shone brightly once more. Tom exhaled deeply. We did it. The crew cheered quietly. They had done the impossible. They had crossed the ring of death. Back at the Galactic Union observation stations, alien leaders watched the live feed in shock and silence. The Drain Council had bet against humans and lost. The weakest ship had defied reality. Tom looked at his crew with pride. This ship was never weak. It was just waiting for someone to believe in it. Mira smiled. And we believed, against all odds. Zed laughed softly. Hope One is more than a ship. It is a symbol, a promise. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. Stories of the human crew and their old ship filled the networks. Many aliens began to respect humanity in a new way. But Tom knew this was only the start. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. Hope One carried secrets, and so did its crew. They would need courage, strength, and wisdom for what came next. After crossing the ring of death, Hope One became famous throughout the Galactic Union. The human crew was no longer seen as weak or small. They had shown strength and courage that surprised many. The Galactic Council invited Tom, Mira, and Zed to a special meeting. Leaders from many alien races gathered in a large hall filled with lights and screens. The humans stood quietly but proudly. The council's head, a tall silver-skinned alien named Varn, spoke first. Humans, your actions have changed how we see you. You have taken a ship we believed weak and made it into a symbol of hope. Tom bowed slightly. Thank you, Counselor Varn. But this was not just about a ship. It was about what humans can do when they refuse to give up. Varn nodded. We recognize that now. Hope One will be renamed the Spirit of Earth. It will become the flagship for future exploration missions led by humanity. Mira smiled softly. We are honored. Zed looked around the room. This ship has many secrets. We want to unlock them all and use them for peace. The Council agreed. They promised to give Earth better technology and support. The days when humans were underestimated were ending. Back on the Spirit of Earth, the crew worked hard. They repaired old systems, activated hidden modules, and studied the ancient messages they had found. The pod from Veras was opened carefully. Inside was a crystal containing knowledge from a long-lost race. Mira studied the crystal and said, this knowledge could change science and medicine for all species. Tom added, it could help us prepare for the darkness mentioned in the hidden station's message. The crew felt both excitement and responsibility. They were no longer explorers in a weak ship. They were guardians of New Hope. News spread across Earth. People watched the spirit of Earth fly among the stars. Children dreamed of joining the crew one day. Tom often thought back to the day they first stepped into the old ship. From that day until now, they had grown, not just in strength, but in spirit. The Galactic Union had given humans the weakest ship, but humans had given it a new life. They had made it a symbol of courage, curiosity, and hope. And so, the story of Hope 1, now Spirit of Earth, began. A new chapter. Humans were no longer the weakest. They were the most unpredictable and brave explorers of the galaxy. The stars were theirs to discover,